by being disciplined, you're following better routines. You're, in this case, being more productive. And if you're getting more done and being more efficient with your time, you're actually creating more freedom in your life because now you have more free time. So it's actually a discipline's like a prerequisite for freedom in your life.
Welcome to the CanInnovate podcast. We focus on providing you with timeless professional development secrets and essential business life skills in a mini bite-sized format. I'm unlocking the vault and sharing best practices that management consultants have been using for decades. We're unapologetically curious. Enjoy. So I'm pretty excited. I got Paul Miners in the house today, and wow, he's amazing. He is a productivity blogger and a virtual consultant. In fact, he actually grew his business on the side while working full-time, which we all know that's a struggle to begin with, and now consults with companies all around the world, helping them with tools like Asana, Pipedriver, Zapier, to really be able to improve productivity. His website is, honestly, it's got so many hidden gems. I couldn't stop scrolling around in there. And his website gets over 100,000 visits per month, and he has an audience of about 43,000 email subscribers. And he loves to talk about how to be more productive in business and life. And honestly, what an amazing trait. So welcome, Paul. It's so great to have you.
Thank you, Sapna. No, thank you so much for inviting me on.
This is really great. I mean, I've got to ask, how did this kind of side business start?
Yeah, how did it start? Wow, thinking back a while ago now, I think it was, I think it was really back at university. I was doing a Bachelor of Commerce degree and majoring in marketing and entrepreneurship. And so from being a teenager, I was always interested in working for myself. And it's interesting, my business goals kind of changed quite dramatically. When I was at university, I wanted to run like a big company, I wanted to kind of invent the next Facebook, or in New Zealand, our kind of a big success story is Xero, the accounting software, which I'm sure a lot of your listeners maybe have heard of or even use. And I was like, I want to have, the next Xero and just run a big company, IPO, sell out, make lots of money. And so that was my goal at university. And after graduating, I went through a few jobs in marketing, and I was trying to think of what is something I could do on the side? How could I start a business and just try and start to work for myself? And it was actually after reading, I was reading The 4-Hour Workweek, which again, very popular book. I'm sure lots of people have read. But in the book, Tim Ferriss obviously talks about how to run like a really efficient business that doesn't consume a lot of your time. And this really opened me up to the world of like what we call like a lifestyle business, which is like a business which doesn't require, 80 hours a week to run. It's more of a lifestyle business where you can balance having a successful business with actually having a social life and supporting your family as well. And then, so I started just getting into this whole world of digital products and selling online courses and, people out there who were running these very successful lifestyle businesses. And so I thought, let me just start down this road. And I thought, what is a blog, or what is some content that I could produce to just start becoming a bit of an authority figure in something. And I landed on productivity because really for me, I've always been interested in productivity. Again, going back to school in my university days, I'm very, a very just type A driven, motivated person. But for me, productivity is like, it's my how, it's my, think of Simon Sinek's golden circle concept, why do you do what you do? Productivity for me is my how. The way I'm able to kind of get more out of life and just have a better life is by being more productive. And so it's something I started to cultivate these skills when I was at university. And so I felt it was a topic that I was passionate about, that I could, just start to write about, and I had a bit of an opinion on. So I started my blog and, just kind of went through that journey of learning as much as I can about how to build an online business and build an audience, get newsletter subscribers and start a podcast. And then eventually, how do you monetize an audience, whether it's through courses or affiliate marketing or consulting like I do now. But really, yeah, it all sort of kind of started from, reading the 4-Hour Workweek and just going down this rabbit hole of thinking about what is something I could be an authority on, and productivity just was a great natural fit with my passion and skills. Yeah.
It's really interesting because we think that productivity is such an easy thing to do. And, there's so many books that have been written about it, but it's such a hard habit and mindset to really get into. So is that kind of where a lot of your clients come from? Like, you do for businesses and individuals. So what actually prompts them to kind of go, I have a problem that I need to focus on? Sometimes people don't realize that they're not productive, So how does that come about?
Yeah, so I specialize in a few different bits of software. So Asana, which is a project management tool, and Pipedrive, which is a sales CRM, and a bit of Zapier as well, which is this automation tool that glues a lot of systems together. So usually my clients are people who have started using one of these two tools. They've learned that, okay, Pipedrive, for example, this sales CRM, they can see there's a lot of potential with it, and they start kind of doing what I did, like going down these rabbit holes, learning how do I learn more about this tool Pipedrive and get more out of it. And I've put out a lot of videos on YouTube showing people how to use this tool. And so that's usually the main way people find me, is either through YouTube or just Google as they're learning about either of these tools. And they realize, oh, wow, there's this guy, Paul. He actually teaches people how to use Pipedrive even better. And, that's when I say, hey, you can work with me. You can book an introductory call to sign up. So usually they are people that have already started using one of the bits of software that I specialize in, and now they're ready to sort of take their understanding to that next level, or they just want an expert to kind of train them on how to get more out of the tool and fast track that learning, really. But it's good you mentioned mindset, because I think people often come to me because they think they have a problem with the tool, when really there's often like a deeper issue at play, which is their mindset or their habits or really the principles that they bring to the tool. And for me, so much of being productive, I think, is about having a good, strong sense of discipline. I think that word discipline goes hand in hand with productivity. You can be more productive if you follow the right habits and if you are disciplined enough to follow the right routines and use your tools and technology correctly.
That's also quite a challenge too, right? I think discipline, we kind of, I don't know, it's got a negative connotation to it sometimes, right? So can you give us some tips about how I could be a little bit more disciplined in certain things?
Yeah, you're right. Actually, it does have that slight negative connotation. I really like what Jocko Willink said in his book. I think it was Extreme Ownership. He talks about how discipline equals freedom. The way you actually have more freedom in your life is by being disciplined, which kind of sounds like a bit of an oxymoron. But if you think about it, like by being disciplined, you're following better routines. You're, in this case, being more productive. And if you're getting more done and being more efficient with your time, you're actually creating more freedom in your life because now you have more free time. So it's actually a discipline's like a prerequisite for freedom in your life. In terms of how to get disciplined, I mean, wow, what a great question. I wish I had like a magic solution for you. I mean, I think so much of it comes down to consistency. If you can kind of reinforce the same, build discipline as a habit and try and reinforce that habit again and again, that consistency will kind of really strengthen that muscle. Discipline is like a muscle that you have to make stronger and stronger. And so consistency is a big part of that. But I think, another piece to the puzzle is like the tools that you use as well. So I think I'm able to be more productive and get more done and essentially be more disciplined by the fact that I have the tools and systems that kind of support my workflow and help me to be more organized. So I think it's a combination of, the mindset and the habits and routine and consistency that you bring to your work. And then you can use things like tools and technology to kind of support those things as well. Ultimately, I think discipline is a culmination of all of these things. But it's just practice and consistency, I think, is really key to just strengthening that muscle. Yeah.
It's funny because, it's one part of the side, there's a lot of people out there, and I get this comment quite a bit about, they're a procrastinator, right? They have all these great ideas and, they're just an amazing procrastinator. And then on the other side, you get people that are always attracted to the new shiny thing. So they start tons of things, but never finish any of those things. So for the procrastinators out there, what simple tip would you give it to them?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this productivity method called time blocking. I don't know if that's actually what it's called. It's what I call it, time blocking or block scheduling. You've probably come across a few different terms before. But it's basically this practice of taking tasks, like maybe you have a task list, or maybe you have a notebook with a to-do list of things you need to do, or maybe it's just in your head. Whatever it is, you're taking the tasks that you need to do and you're actually putting them onto your calendar and blocking out time to do that task. So you might say, like today, actually, I had on my calendar, I need to write some email templates for an email sales funnel. And so I blocked out like literally a block of time. I think it was like an hour on my calendar to sit down and do that task. So it's a manual process. There's no automated way to do this, really. And that's the point, is it actually forces you to manually think about, when am I going to do this thing, and put it on your calendar. How that helps is, number one, you're kind of making a commitment to yourself. So a bit like how most people use their calendars right now, if they don't time block, is, they only put on events or appointments when they have a meeting with someone, like this interview that we're doing right now. We have an appointment on our calendar. I'm kind of making a commitment to you to show up and be here, and vice versa. And so it's kind of like adopting that same discipline, if you like, with your own tasks. So you're putting a task on your calendar to say, hey, I'm going to show up, and for that hour, I'm going to work on that task. So that's the first thing, is I think it helps you to overcome that procrastination, because you've kind of made a commitment, a promise to yourself that you're going to do something. The really nice thing about time blocking as well is that, a lot of us have these to-do lists we have really good intentions. You say you start all these projects, like you said, and it's very easy to get overwhelming, and it's just easy to commit to too much at once. And so when you take your task list and you start to put things on your calendar and say, right, today, I've got 8 hours in my day. I'm going to do this, this, and this, and I'm going to put these blocks on. To put them on your calendar, you're forced to think about how long those tasks take. So some of them I might even put on like a 15-minute block on my calendar. Some might take 30 minutes. Some might take 2 hours. And so I'm allocating chunks of time throughout my day to these various tasks. And so I'm forced to prioritize and plan when I'm going to do different tasks. So I'm taking all of my tasks, which I joke that I like to call tasks like good intentions. They're all of our intentions. It's not actually what we're necessarily going to get done. But it forces you to take all this good intention and actually translate it into a plan on your calendar of when you're going to do various things and how long they approximately should take. And so it really helps you to overcome that procrastination. It really helps you to not commit to too much, because if you want to make room for something else on your calendar, you have to make trade-offs and move things around. And so that's why I think this time blocking method is really powerful. It's been something I've been doing for probably the best part of a decade now. I recommend it to almost everyone that talks to me about productivity. And look, I'll finish by saying that this time blocking method that I'm talking about, it's not for everyone. Like, a lot of people don't like it. They think it's very restrictive. It takes too much work. That's kind of the point, is that it forces you to be intentional. But I think if you give it a go and if you try it for a few weeks, you'll actually find it's a really nice way to work. You'll be getting more done. You're not procrastinating as much, and you're not overcommitting as well. It definitely takes a bit of time to cultivate this new habit of working from your calendar. But like I said, when you've kind of developed that habit, it becomes really natural. And so for me, time blocking is something I don't even really have to think about anymore. I'm just constantly flicking back to my calendar throughout the day to revise and update my plan as I go. So it's been a really powerful habit. And I think that's a very tactical thing people can try and overcome some of those challenges around procrastination, for sure.
I love that idea of just, batching things and the time blocking just to focus on those key activities that you said you're going to do. That would really help you get to the finish line. Now, for those people that are the kings or queens of always starting something and never finishing it, and, what kind of tips could you give for those individuals?
Yeah, well, again, I think the time blocking would again be a good way to help you, I guess, like close those loops. I think, you could be using tools like Kanban. A lot of people are kind of throwing this Kanban word around now, which is quite interesting. If you've used tools like Trello or even Asana, they have these board layouts, which people call it Kanban. It's actually, I think people are misusing that word, because true Kanban style, like project management, is where you have kind of a queue of work that you're doing. You have an in-progress kind of stage where this is the stuff that I've started. And then you kind of have, maybe you're waiting on approval or something, but eventually the work, gets done. And true Kanban style of project management requires that normally when you start a task, you would have a limit of the number of tasks or projects that can be in progress at once. So tools like Asana or Trello make this really visual. If you've laid out like a board with your queue in one column and an in progress column and then your completed column, you might say, okay, I can only have, let's say, 3 things in progress at once. And to start something new, you have to either stop something you're doing and ditch it or complete it, ideally. And so, yeah, using these tools makes that very visual. But again, you have to bring that sense of discipline to the tool. Otherwise, people can like start too many things and not close them. But if you are following that true Kanban methodology, you need to be disciplined with yourself about not starting a new thing until you close some of your open loops. And yeah, a tool like Asana or Trello would really help with that.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because I think a lot of people don't understand how to prioritize, all the different activities, or understand, there's an output of something that is an input somewhere else, to kind of go, wait a minute, I need to make this a little bit more urgent versus something else. And, it's quite interesting. And I love that you clarify the Kanban definition, because you're right. I think everyone just kind of jumps on, they go on a word merry-go-round, and everyone uses it for everything. Yeah, it's quite fascinating. Sometimes I think
it's really odd.
Words.
I think it's just that as these board layouts in project management tools have become just kind of more popular, people call them Kanban boards. Kanban's it doesn't refer to the board. Kanban is actually a methodology, and most people don't know what it means. Yeah, it's quite funny.
Yeah. And, so I was playing around in your website, obviously, because there's just such great content in there. And, and I love the way that you write. Like, it's like, me. And it's really funny because when I'm reading it, I'm like, oh. But I was reading one of your recent blogs that was about 10 productive and fun ways to use this idle time, because, I was looking at some stuff for COVID. And what fascinated me was this thing about the lockdown loaf. Can you tell us a little about this lockdown loaf that, that's kind of crazy in New Zealand that everyone's talking about?
Oh, it's a bit of a trend. Yeah, it's a bit of a trend that started here. I thought this was a bit sort of happening everywhere, but I think since people have had more time, people have just been baking lots. Like cakes and muffins and things. But so we have a sort of celebrity chef here, Chelsea Winter, and I think she started this recipe, which she called Lockdown Loaf. And I think the idea, I haven't made it myself. I think my wife made us loaf, but the idea of the recipe is that it doesn't require many ingredients. Obviously, if you're on lockdown, you might have limited supplies. I think it requires a beer. You put in a bottle of beer, which is a very sort of Kiwi thing to do, is just add beer to something. But yeah, so it requires some beer, flour. You can kind of throw some other stuff on top. You can put on like onion and bacon and stuff on the top, and it's kind of this kind of rustic loaf. But it's just something that became popular since lockdown started, is everyone wants to bake bread and I don't know, just get back to baking in the kitchen, really. Yeah,
no, it's true, because in Toronto, and I know you're in New Zealand, we've got obviously a baking shortage too. So sometimes in some grocery stores there's the flour, the yeast. But I think this lockdown loaf is so hilarious. When I was looking at the recipe, it seems so simple, but what got me was the ingredients, the beer. You don't think of beer inside of bread, but it is something that you could easily use. So I can't wait to try it out. It's definitely going to be on my list of things to try out this weekend.
It's got yeast in it, yeah.
Yeah, which it makes logical sense, right? So I thought that was really great, because, and I think that's another shift that's really happening, is with this whole COVID situation, with people having their homes and working from home and so on, and all their lives, kind of combining. I think people are really starting to have a struggle with how to be productive, when both of your worlds are combined all the time, right? Do you have any tips around that you could share with our listeners?
Yeah. So I think the first thing I would say is, don't feel like you always have to be productive. The whole world is going through this kind of crazy situation right now. Times are tough. Like, a lot of people have like lost jobs or have friends and family who are suffering. And so the first thing I would say is, like, if you can't get a lot done during this time, don't worry. So just give yourself permission to relax, go easy on yourself, because we're all going through a bit of a tough time. And I think that's really important. I think we often put pressure on ourselves. Like, I think we live in this world now, this kind of self-improvement centric world, where I don't know about you, I often feel guilty if I'm not like maximizing my day, or I'm not reading a self-help book at night. I'm just on Netflix. Like, no, I actually think it's okay to take some time out. We work so much. We work more than we ever have in the past. Like, I think it's okay to take time out and relax every now and then. And I even said in that post, the 10 things to do. If you want to just like play the PlayStation, play some video games, watch a movie, or just do nothing, like that's okay. So I guess I'll just preface what I'm about to say with that is go easy on yourself. But then, during these tricky times, I think we just have to firstly prioritize what's important. Obviously, like our health, both like physically and mentally. Work is still important, but really before anything else, we need to be looking after our health. And obviously, like now, a lot of people are working from home. And so this is going to be a new challenge for a lot of people. Fortunately, I've worked from home quite a bit already, working for myself. I normally work from a co-working space, but that's obviously been closed. So I've been at home more than usual. It's going to be challenging for a lot of people. It's going to require like maybe trying to find some space where you can find some quiet space to jump on that Zoom call. Maybe you've got kids at home who are taking school lessons as well. So there's that to juggle with. So just, talk to the people around you, see what you can all do to support one another, whether it's like finding a new space or for when people need to be on calls, that type of thing. And then, being a big sort of productivity and tech geek as well, I'm always interested in like, how can I use different tools and technology to try and make my work from home routine more productive. So using tools like Zoom, which I think everyone's got experience with now, but also this is for a lot of teams, it's their first time using tools like Asana or Pipedrive, which are great for collaborating with your team remotely, seeing what people are up to, creating more transparency around what's going on and collaborating back and forth. I think this is a really interesting time to kind of challenge the norm, try new ways of working, try systems and tools that maybe you haven't used before. And I really hope that, and I feel confident that a lot of businesses are going to come out of this experience better off because they've now been exposed to a new way of working, or they've developed systems that they can take back to their normal day-to-day routine once this is all over. I'm just going back to what I said at the start. I mean, at the start of your question, go easy on yourself as well. This is tricky times. And so if you feel like you're not getting as much done as you normally would, that's okay.
Yeah, no, it's true. I think, it's a really good point and I think everyone understands we need to be a lot more flexible with things and everyone's a little bit more empathetic to people's sort of situations. And I think we forget that it's okay now. Like, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to be a little slower on certain things, but more importantly, it's just making sure you're focusing on the right things and still being a little productive, on the right things as opposed to time wasters. And, it's funny because I started off with this whole COVID situation. I started cleaning and spring cleaning, you name it. I had all those things I was going to catch up on. And now I've been finding myself really curious about other things. So people are telling me recommendations of not just books, but like really weird shows that I would never watch. But I'm kind of, a little bit inspired a little bit. And, I'm starting to look at things from a different set of lenses. I think that's my takeaway from it all.
Yeah, and I made a big assumption with my answer. I'm sorry for people listening. I was talking about, or talking really to the people that are still working from home, but, you made me realize quite rightly that there are a lot of people who are not working. There's people like in New Zealand, a lot of tradies, builders who now they can't be on the tools, on the job site anymore. They're kind of stuck at home. Like one of our neighbors is a builder, and man, I think the novelty factor of not working and being at home all day, I think that has worn off pretty quickly for a lot of people. And so for these people that normally are working jobs and now they can't work, they can't even work remotely because their job is, maybe they're a chef or a builder or something like that. That's a whole completely set of different challenges, which I feel completely inequipped to help people with because I'm just still working from home. I guess my generic advice would be, again, to just like take this, look at what opportunities you can take away from this. Maybe it is learning a new skill. Maybe it is just catching up on a bit of housework and cleaning out the pantry and doing some of those little chores that you've been putting off for a while. I really love that expression, the obstacle is the way, Ryan Holiday's book, and it's about trying to find the good even in bad situations. And I think it's a really positive mindset to try and have it at a time like this.
I totally agree. And for those other individuals, what a great time. I mean, to do something like what you did while you were, working and stuff. You started a side hustle, right? So what a great time to tap into something that you may not have tried out before. And then with all these types of, tools out there. And I think if I remember correctly, you've got a little gift, a freebie that you're going to offer to our listeners about the productivity blueprint and the video training. But your website has got so many great gems about how to start up and, create a mailing list and things you need to think about. Like, it's really great information there.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Well, my gift or my freebie that you'll find all over my website, you can just go to paulminers.com. That's my productivity blueprint. So it's a simple blueprint that outlines how different tools can be used together. So things like your calendar and your email and notes and Dropbox, and how to create sort of a simple system for staying organized. So that's available to download on my website. With my website, my approach has generally been to just try and build a bit of an online profile, well before I even thought this would turn into a business for me. I actually just created my website, and that's why it's paulminers.com, as a way to just create like a bit of an online profile for myself. So actually I have a lot of book summaries up there, and I really just put them up for myself just to have somewhere for them to live. And little did I know that other people would find them interesting, and now they get searched for and downloaded thousands of times a month. So that's kind of just been my approach with my website, is just sharing what I'm doing. Not to say, look, I'm the best at this or I have the magic answer. Often I'm very upfront with, I don't know if this is going to work or this is what I do. And that's really my approach, is just sharing my experience, and this is what's worked for me. And maybe you can learn from that, maybe not. And that's sort of been my sort of guiding philosophy with my website, is to just share my own, what I'm up to, and hopefully help people along the way.
Well, I definitely been inspired by your website. And for our listeners out there, don't worry. I'm going to put the link in the show notes because, I'm always crazy about easy clicking, off you go type of situations. Yeah. But this has been really great. And it's so cool to talk to somebody from literally the other side of the world. And I hope you're having better weather than we are here in Toronto. We just had snow, so it's kind of crazy. We got COVID and snow, so it's a good time to stay in.
New Zealand and Canada are I feel like we're the cool cousins of one another. We each have that annoying big brother. We have Australia, that's our big brother, and you have the States, your big brother, which you often get compared to, I know. But it's the same with us in Australia. But I think New Zealand and Canada, we're quite similar in lots of ways. So I think we're kind of the cool cousins, yeah.
I like it. I'm totally going to use that for sure. Well, Paul, I've really enjoyed our conversation, and I can't wait to get this out for our listeners. And I'm going to get a ton of email all about you. So I can't wait. So thank you so much for your amazing time.
No, thank you for inviting me. This has been great. Thank you, Sapna.
Thank you so much for joining and listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed this episode or any other episode, please share with your friends and colleagues. You can share on social media, the email link, the newsletter, and so on. Let's continue to support these Canadian innovators and help them really grow into bigger brands. Awareness and knowledge is totally key. Anyways, I can't wait to talk to you next week. Cheers.